I was the typical nerd who got his computer, learned how to code in C++, and start creating applications. To be a great product leader, you need to have principles and mental models that helps you with your day-to-day. I think today we have so many tools, so many information, like so much information that we can use to build things. And the only thing that we need is discipline and commitment.
Welcome to a new episode of Tech to Table Talks. Today we are joined by Jesus Cagide, a product leader and entrepreneur with a remarkable career spanning FinTech, wealth management, and beyond. Jesus is currently the co-founder of Product and Leadership, where he's shaping the future of product management and leadership development. He's also the director of product management for consumer growth at Stash, where he's led initiatives that tripled activation rates and managed over $3 billion in assets. Previously at BlockFi, Jesus launched yield accounts in 16 countries, and at PayPal, he spearheaded Buy Now Pay Later product family across Europe, achieving over a $250 million in monthly payment volume. With a career that spans continents and industries, Jesus brings a wealth of knowledge and a unique perspective to the table. So with that, let's dive in.
Hey Jesus, welcome to Tech to Table Talks. First of all, I want to say a big thank you for joining the podcast and giving up some of your time. I know you're a very busy person and you have a ton of experience in this PM space, so I'm very excited to dive in and talk more on this podcast.
The pleasure is all mine, David. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Amazing. Where are you calling from today, or where are you based?
I'm based in the beautiful city of San Francisco.
Nice. Have you spent most of your career working from the San Francisco and the Bay Area?
Yes, now that you mention it, I've been the last 10 years here.
Wow.
The time flies.
10 years.
I'm originally from Mexico, but I moved to San Francisco 10 years ago when my company got acquired. And since then, I used to stay. It's like amazing. It's an amazing place to be a product manager and entrepreneur.
Yeah. Was that the plan? Was the plan to stay 10 years when you came?
No, that's a great question. Originally, I was actually very busy building my company in Latin America. And my original goal was actually to expand in Latin America. And then when I got acquired, the CEO of this company invited me to come over. I was only like 21 years old. And he invited me to come over and he said, Jesus, you need to know a little bit about the world. And he was right. I came over and I keep coming back like every 6 months. And then I realized that I should be here. So when I was 23, I finally moved to San Francisco and I didn't leave. I mean, I live for vacation stuff, but I keep here
Here you are.
to grow my career.
Well, San Francisco, definitely very lucky having you in the city. And I do want to quickly just talk a bit about your background. I'll let you share a little bit about yourself, but you have incredible experience as an engineer. I think you started career as an engineer, turned product, founder background, and then a ton of product leadership experience in FinTech. But yeah, could you just give a quick 1 minute overview of your background?
Of course. So as you well mentioned, my career started as an engineer. So I'm a computer science by heart. I started coding in desktop and in mobile, which helped me to create 2 companies in Mexico, both of them in FinTech. And later on in 2013, my company got acquired, which was bring me here. And from there, I can tell you that I've been the last 15 years of my career building financial products for Latin America, United States, and Europe. And as you well mentioned, I transitioned from being an engineer to become a product manager. And this is funny. Of course, when I was the CTO of my company, I was playing the role of product manager without noticing it. And when I got acquired, the CEO of this company told me, well, you cannot be the CTO of this company, but we have a position, and the position is being a product manager. And that moment actually, that was very interesting for me to discover there was another role where I can play. And that changed my life. I started getting into product. As mentioned, I came to Silicon Valley and started learning about product. And the rest is history. I came over, and as I mentioned, I spent 15 years first in the company who acquired me. And after the acquisition time, I went to work in some startups here in Silicon Valley, which bring me to the understanding like what it means actually to bring products to life in Silicon Valley from small teams. And once I have that self-validation, I actually wanted to go to the next level of my career. And I went to big tech, and I went to work in companies like PayPal and Intuit. I was hungry to understand what it was mean to actually launch international products, which I did it. And later on, I work in unicorns like BlockFi and Stash, which also helped me to understand what it means to actually to transform a company. And now I'm here.
Wow.
Talking with you after all 15 years.
First of all, congratulations on a very inspirational career. I think I don't even know where to start in this podcast. We can start anywhere, and there's so many rich topics that we can go through. But congratulations. Yeah, it's definitely a big inspiration for myself, and I'm sure a lot of listeners listening. I do want to maybe pick on like one of the comments you mentioned earlier of like transition from engineering to PM. I'm sure that wasn't natural or something you planned since you were 16 to pivot to product. How was that transition for you? And what was the most difficult things or any comments on that transition? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people, I hear more and more engineers want to move into product. And I know in the last 5-10 years, that's been like a natural progression as well.
Great question. So to answer your question, like what was the most difficult thing to do for me personally was actually stop coding, because I love code. And everything started when I was actually 15 years old. I started coding when I was 15 years old in high school. And I love it. I discovered that that was one way of my self-expression. I was the typical nerd who got his computer, learned how to code in C++, and start creating applications in frameworks like Qt. I started working in Linux, etc. And that actually evolved over the time. I was building more and more complex applications, which eventually bring me to create my first startup. The secret here part, like you need to find the right people to hang out. I keep hanging out with the people who also like computers and building things. And this actually what probably bring me to become a PM, because since very young age, I start creating applications for myself, which in that moment I didn't understand that, but I was creating products. In fact, I can recall that when I was 17, I built my first POS, my first point of sales. That was a very basic system to pretty much manage inventories. And I sell it to some small businesses in Mexico because I wanted to get new computers to play Age of Empires. I don't know if you remember the game, but in that moment, I used to play with my brothers, and we don't have enough computers at home. So I actually built this small POS and I sell it to my friends of the friends' families. And with that moment, we buy some computers and we play video games. And in fact, that inspired me to keep building. I realized that, wow, I can build things and these things actually can generate money. And this is actually how I start in that moment to creating software and eventually creating companies. To asking your question about the transition, there was when my company got acquired, when I discovered that what was a PM. And I discovered that my position were more as a guide and a coach, more than a technical coder or a technical manager. And just took me some time to understand that my position in that moment was to guide others and to bring clarity to others more than execute in the activities to others. And unfortunately, I actually have good people around me to coach me in that journey and coach me in how to let go, to build more. Now, to answer the last part of your question, like how this transition happens, well, happens through continuous improvement. I think probably the best skill that I can recall that been helping me all my life is critical thinking, which I think a lot of engineers are training for that. If you have critical thinking, means you can actually take a problem and you can break the problem in small parts And if you understand that, you can apply for everything in your life. And it's exactly what I did in PMing. I didn't understand what was PMing, so I break it down in small parts. I find people who help me to understand this, and I keep refining it and learning and training to be good at that. And it's what actually I try to also teach to my teams.
I can imagine, one of PM core skills dealing with ambiguity. I can just see you like have this formula in your head, like X, Y, Z, and which lever to pull to improve like a certain metric or something. and I'm sure I love that concept.
Right. Well, a lot of these things actually come together. Also, I will say because I was a founder. So it's only when you become a founder that you actually are aware also not only to building things, but to make the things sustainable. And you have the pressure to actually to be thinking in the holistic view, like how I can build something that I can keep updating and selling, and actually this generate me a recurrent revenue to continue growing my company. And I think helps a lot. So all the PMs who are there, I always advise them to, if you want to, or engineers, in this case, engineers who want to transition, I always advise them to build a product from the scratch. And it could be a size project, but that will help them to understand the holistic view. Like, it's not just about building a thing, but also to see other people use it, and later on to see if the people who are using that are willing to pay for that. And the cycle to maintain people using your product, that actually gives you the whole view of what it means to be a PM or a product manager.
It's almost like you mentioned Age of Empires. This is like your new game that you're playing, the PM game, right?
Right.
Very cool. Do you still game today? Just a fun question.
Yes. I'm recently been super into Helldivers.
Wow. Okay.
Which is it's a very interesting game. It's a teamwork game, and probably that's something that is very embedded in my personality. I love to play games where I can interact with others and I can team up with others. So I'm not a solo player. In Age of Empires, I used to team up with my brothers, and now there's these Helldivers. I team up with my friends to all together go through one objective, but together. I believe that. I do believe, like, if you wanted to go far, you need to get together, right? You want to go faster, you can go alone.
A lot of that, I feel like, is what a PM role is, right? You're meant to inspire your team, drive your team, lead your team, and kind of show ownership and leadership skills, which is, I see it throughout. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. I do want to backtrack a little bit, Jesus, on you mentioned earlier your passion for engineering, and that's what really ignited you in tech and this whole world. Just fast forwarding to today, so 10 years forward, and you're seeing all the crazy innovation in coding and engineering now. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, I know engineers are using like Cursor now and Copilot and GitHub Copilot. Like, how, like, you've seen the whole evolution over 10 years. What's your thoughts on this?
I think we're in a fascinating time to be an engineer, or in other words, a creative person, right? And when I say that, I mean it. I think today we have so many tools, so many information, like so much information that we can use to build things. And the only thing that we need is discipline and commitment, right? Because they also with the access to too much information, and also the access to too many tools, people who relies in motivation, they will probably fall short. However, people who stay disciplined, right, are still committed to what they wanted to build, they will do it. And today is the best moment in life. And I can tell you this because when I was 15 years old, I was coding with books. Like, I had my computer connected to this telephone cable, and if I wanted to code something else, I was coding in C++. If I wanted to improve what I was doing, that I actually need to go to the local library to find some C++ books to tell me some secrets. Imagine me becoming like this little wizard who believes that all these C++ books, they have some kind of spells, and try the different algorithms and these different libraries, right? and figuring out what I can do with that. And later on, actually, I play some tricks in school, right? I remember actually I played some tricks like I was creating software to pretty much like fake it when you put a disk, and the disk actually copy all the information and create an interface, right? To tell people like, hey, your information being deleted, but it's not deleted. So yes, I was kind of that guy that actually was doing these kind of things for fun, but I learned all these kind of things in books. And as the time passed, you can find this information, like a lot of developers later on, we grow up with a Stack Overflow,
Yeah.
right? Where you can find other people and you can later GitHub, right? GitHub come over and you can find all these open source things, right? I remember personally spend hours and hours reading open source code to figure out how people that smarter than me build things, just to try to replicate them, to also be like able to create software like them. And I think now is even easier. You can use as ChatGPT, like, hey, how somebody built this library, how I can build this interface, how I can replicate this, how could you actually help me to set up a server in this way? So long story short, I think today we have all the tools. The thing that we need to now to train is our mind to be disciplined and committed.
Very cool, Jesus. It does make me think though, like I feel like when you were 15, you had to be very hands-on and I guess trial and error, right? Like you're like learning, you're experimenting, you're seeing what works, what doesn't work. Whereas like a 15-year-old in 2024 has everything on a platter for them. and what do you think are the limitations? Like what would you tell a 15-year-old engineer today on, I'm sure they're like experiencing engineering from a totally different perspective compared to when you were.
Right. My biggest advice for them will be that they need to build tools for themselves first, not for others. Because when you build, in this case, I can see kids building games in Roblox or creating some maps in Minecraft. They are building up for themselves and to have fun with their friends. And software or products, digital products, are not as different, right? When you build something that where you are the first consumer, right? Let's say like I built a small chat. Now, believe it or not, it's one of my side projects when I was a kid. I was trying to replicate MSN. Do you remember MSN?
Yeah. I loved MSN. It was big in Australia.
I grew up actually playing role games with my friends in MSN, like writing role plays. And I was so super into this that I actually tried to create our own MSN where actually I can put some of the pre-narrator lines there and some of the icons, etc. But I was spending my weekends building this thing just because I love it and I know my friends would love it. And that motivates me to keep going and to try to learn. And it doesn't matter how difficult it was, I keep motivated and I keep committed. So I think that is the first advice. If you will build something as today, build it for yourself. Don't try to build it for somebody else. You'll become the first customer. You will try it, you will use it, and you will share it. Then you can build something for somebody else.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, big plus one on that. Just a quick follow-up before we move into another topic. But I always think deeply about incumbents and startups and new innovation. And you know, I'm sure when we were using MSN growing up, I would have thought that would be around forever. But clearly MSN is no longer here. Why do you think that happens? Do you think there's been a replacement for MSN, or why do you think companies like MSN or Yahoo or MySpace just slowly diminish away? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, actually it's one of my favorite topics, which is trying to understand the habits and behaviors of the geographical markets. And this thing that you asked me is everything to do with how people behave in a specific geography. So I will tell you this thing. I really believe that digital products are tools. And as a tool, have a specific purpose, they have a task to complete. Now, what I'm actually mentioning the geographical thing is because every human being, depending of the situation where they are living, the geography and the community that they are living, they are using different tools, right? Because we are a society, we actually share tools to execute certain things, right? So to your point, what happened to MSN and happened with all these tools? Well, today we have, for example, WhatsApp, and you will see like WhatsApp is super big in Latin America or in India. But for example, we have WeChat, which is super popular for Asian people, and we have, for example, Line, or we have, for example, here in the States, we have Messenger or iMessenger, right? And all these tools, or in this case, all these products are basically doing the same task, which is keep people connected. That's the core, right? However, the only difference between WhatsApp and iMessage or Line is how actually people adopt the tool in that specific geography, right? Because this is a community job, right? You cannot use, for example, WhatsApp if your friends are not in WhatsApp. You need to bring your friends in WhatsApp. And why people start to using WhatsApp? Well, WhatsApp will become very popular in Latin America specifically because when WhatsApp was launched, we used to pay for each message. In Mexico, we used to pay like
Wow, per message.
5 pesos per message.
Wow.
And there was a totally a ripoff. Like if you want to keep in contact with your family or your friends, you need to constantly be paying money to send messages. And WhatsApp was the first tool who allowing us to do that in any device. So the adoption of WhatsApp was massive. I remember I paid for my first WhatsApp. I remember like that was maybe like $9. And for me, that was a totally great deal. I was like, wow, I will save a lot of money if my friends actually texted me here, right? So that's what actually that happens. You think about why people use WeChat in China.
Yeah.
Well, majority of the people use, or their friends or their families, they actually are in WeChat. So they keep communicating WeChat. Even, for example, the community here in Silicon Valley of Chinese people, why they're not using Messenger, why they're not using WhatsApp? Because the family is there.
Yeah.
So to coming back to your question, what happened with this? Well, we need to first understand what is the core task that people is trying to accomplish it, what is necessary for that task, and with that, we can understand what are the alternatives and what is the existing behavior of the society. Then we can understand
Network
how
effects.
people adopt it or not adopt it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick story about that. That's the reason why when Line, and this happens, this is a true story, Line and Telegram, they actually tried to go to Latin America or even to the States, and they failed. They didn't have the level of adoption that they used to have. Why? Because people, they already have all the contacts in the other applications. And there was something difficult for them to understand all that kind of tool and try to go to another kind of tool, right? And that's what we call the forces of adoption. And the forces of adoption is pretty much simplified in 2 areas, very simple. One is, for one side, people in their mind, they are thinking in the tools that they're really using, and they see the new tool and they see the benefit. Telegram is more safe, it's faster. I really wanted to use that. But there's another force which is in their mind, which is the anxiety or the FOMO. Like, but I already using this WhatsApp and maybe it's not the most safe, but all my friends are there. And what about this one? This Telegram is not safe as they say that. So these two thoughts or these two forces are fighting in their mind. Now, your job as a product manager is to understand this and alleviate one of these two things. Or you reduce anxiety, or you leverage the benefit to reduce the anxiety so people can adopt it.
I love that framework. I've never heard of it before, but it makes so much sense. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great segue, though. It's a perfect segue to your kind of consumer fintech experience. Like, you have a ton of experience in this space. And I know we were talking about it earlier on, we can also apply in consumer fintech of like, throughout the world, there's different geographies on neobanks and like fintech companies that have done pretty well. And we'll talk about Nubank in Latin America and Revolut in Europe and UK, and the US has its own version. Like, what's your thoughts on like this space? And like, is that also geography specific? And can Nubank own the whole world, for example? But any thoughts on that?
Yes. I would like to start that conversation with the foundational part of what it means FinTech, right? FinTech at the end of the day is just a technology that enables two entities to interchange goods and to build trust. That's the main task, or we could call that the main job to be done, right? That's FinTech. Like, we build all this technology just to ensure that two entities interchange something. We verify the identity, we help them to get money, we help them to have savings, but it's just two people or two entities trust each other, right? Now, to your point about like how fintech is being evolved in the different markets, is also for the necessity of that geographical markets and the behavior. To your point about Nubank, it's very interesting that Nubank and Revolut, they actually go through underserved areas first, right? They first penetrate the market or enter the market by attacking specifically underserved areas, and then they expanded in the other activities that involve, in this case, the financial. And I will put you an example pretty quickly, like why Nubank actually expanded so well, because Nubank attacked specifically underserved market that was looking for credit. And as you know, in Latin America, we're talking all Latin America, from Mexico all the way to Brazil. One of the biggest pain points was still being facility credit, right? People is hungry for credit, but it's difficult to give them credit. Why? Because infrastructure to validate this trust between two individuals is not there. And you're going to ask me, Jesus, how is that possible? And this is something that a lot of people from the United States, because we have such a great infrastructure, cannot perceive. It's because in Latin America, or specifically now they're doing a better job than before, but for the last 10 years, it was actually very difficult to identify the identity of someone. Why? Because there is no concept of social security number. Why? Because people normally don't own properties. And what that means? That means that people doesn't have a specific physical address.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not that there is no money. It's money there. But as you know, credit, the simple thing to do is actually to give credit to people. The difficult thing to do is to put the guardrails around to be sure that people can repay the money.
Yeah. Who are the people, right? In their profile.
Right.
The infrastructure, yeah.
So that's actually one of the biggest, the biggest like underserved areas in Latin America. And coming back again to Nubank knew this. And this is why their first product, that was an easy to access credit card. They simplify the access to have a credit card. And that's actually been the main product in multiple launches. If you analyze the story of Nubank, they started out with Brazil. They use exactly the same technique to penetrate in the Mexican market. And once that they have credit, they expanded to the other services, like offer a saving account, that offer access to stocks, access to crypto, etc., etc. But everything starts with one specific task.
Yeah.
That what is the task? People wanted to spend, and they need to increase their buying power, but they cannot have access to that.
Do you think, just a quick question, do you think Latin America is a winner-takes-all market? Like, can there be multiple fintech players that compete against Nubank? And I'm not sure, I'm not too deep in the Latin American market, but do you think they're just going to win it and there's going to be one winner?
Great question. I do think like the same that you, for example, you open your wallet right now and you tell me how many credit cards do you have? It's the same thing that will happen in Latin America or in other countries. Like, I can tell you the answer by my experience in fintech. Normally people in the States, they have between 3 to 4 credit cards. And they're using these credit cards depends of the rewards. So I think there should be no one specific winner. It's just depend of the main activity. Now, Latin America is still very early on that. Right now we're in the first step, which is like, let's get people access to increase the buying power. Once that they have that and they get educated on that, so then they will actually have multiple credit cards too. And I think the market's still there developing. personally, I think that right now, this generation and next generation, they will be the generation with the greatest access in financial products in history for Latin America. Because it's the first generation who can apply for a credit card in their phone, who can actually pay in their phone, who actually don't need to rely on money in their house, physical money. They know what is a saving account. And this didn't happen before. So I think in the next 10 years, we will see a great evolution in the consumer behavior in Latin America, with the principal thing is literacy. People will be educated and there will be no fear to financial products. Because before, there was fear. And to the other part of the spectrum, you can ask me, Revolut, we talk about that. Well, Revolut started with a very specific product, which was also underserved, which was the change of currency.
Yeah. Yep. I used it early on.
Right? So there was, unfortunately, one of these things that people don't think about that. In the States, we don't think about that at all. Like, why is people wanted to change between currencies?
Yeah.
Right? But when you're living in that specific locality and you're like, well, we have euros, but not everybody is accepting euros. I need to be changing between these three. And I'm changing between countries because I work in this country, but I visit this other country. And that was a real problem. And I think they solved it in a very elegant way. And the same that Nubank, they solved this big underserved problem for the market. And then once people start to use it and become a habit, then they start to inject in more products.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, the land and expand, and what's that initial wedge, right, and the Trojan horse to get into a market. It's fascinating. I feel like we can talk for days on that, but I do want to take a quick pivot and maybe backtrack a little bit on like your product experience in FinTech. First of all, like, why FinTech? What do you love about FinTech so much? You mentioned you built a POS system since you were like in your childhood, and you've been in the space for over a decade now. Like, why do you obsess over this space and industry?
Well, FinTech, if you think about this, is one of these products which impact all our life every single day. Because we use money every single day. We use money from do daily transactions. We use money for future transactions, right? So FinTech is fascinating because it's affecting my life and affecting the life of my loved ones every single day. Now, how I actually get into FinTech, there was in this realization that I was working for all these people who actually need to develop trust between systems. And the more that actually I get into FinTech, the more I realize that not many people, even they were using every single day, they were noticing that the whole concept of FinTech, as I mentioned to you, is this concept of building trust and relationships. Because when somebody sends money to other people, and we're talking about remittance, when Jesus is sending money to Jesus' mom in Mexico, I'm not thinking about the money. I'm thinking about my mom. I'm thinking about like what she would do with the money. When I try to actually buy something, I'm not thinking about how much I've been paying. I'm thinking about the thing that I'm getting, right? Thinking about getting these like fancy sneakers and how it look like. So that concept, the simplistic concept of understanding like FinTech is just the way through to allow people to build relationships and to get what they desired, is what fascinates me. Now, if you think about FinTech, I'll put it another way. Also, we have stages of FinTech that affect our life. And I categorize it in four in my experience. One is financial aid, which is like when people are struggling and trying to make the day-to-day in the living, right? And we can say these people who need some credits or actually are paying for the student loans, right? That's financial aid. Later on, we have financial wellness, which is people who they are not struggling, but they wanted to stop living paycheck by paycheck, right? Later, we have wealth management, which is when you already have some money and you're not living paycheck by paycheck, and you realize that you can make your money make more money for you. And then we have the latest stage, which is financial, in this case, generational wealth, right? And generational wealth or past the wealth to your loved ones is something that will transcend your existence, and that will go to the people who you love. Not necessarily your family members, but people who you love. Now, these four areas you think about that not only affect your present, they will affect your future and the future of your loved ones. Coming back again, that's what fascinates me with FinTech.
Yeah.
It really is involved in all your life.
It's really
and can make a great
personal.
impact.
Yeah, it's really personal when you talk it about the way you did. I love it. I mean, just for you to know, when I was back in professional service in accounting and tax, I learned in the Big Four there was a family advisory team, and that was advising kind of very wealthy individuals, high net worth individuals that have made generational wealth, and how do you kind of disperse that wealth into future generations and in a very tax effective way. So yeah, that was a thought that came top of mind, and it kind of all connects. Like, you make money, then how do you save money, and then how do you pass it on to future generations. Yeah, I think looking at it from that lens is very personal, and it's very fascinating space.
It is a fascinating space, and I think the thing that you mentioned it is about emotions. So how actually do this in the right way so you can impact more lives. That's what fascinates me with FinTech, that if we do this well, we really can change not only your life, but the life of the people who is around you.
Couldn't agree more. Quick question, another one on FinTech. Since you've had an amazing experience over the last decade in this space, how do you see the next 10 years evolving in FinTech? Like, what excites you about the industry? Or, yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think the future of FinTech will be through prosperity and through generational wealth. And let me break it down because I overloaded. So as today, we keep using the concept of prosperity without materializing this. But to simplify this, prosperity at the end of the day is being living without worries. Like, to be prosper, you are a person who you are not worried about your financial situation, your health situation, your emotional situation, right? And it's proven that if you are worried about money, that will affect your health and probably your emotional well-being with the people who are around you. So everything starts from the core, which is you need to be good with yourself, and you want to have financial prosperity so you can actually help the people around you. And in the next 10 years, I think we are in this moment in life where we can help people to arrive to prosperity through financial services that help them to take better decisions for them in the present and in the future. Something that we couldn't do before. Really, one of the pillars of FinTech at the end of the day, or of finance, is education. But because money is so emotional, could be taboo or even could be scary for some people. So there is an emotional barrier that don't allow a lot of people to actually get good about their finances, the personal finance. And I think with the technology that we are developing as today, we have the possibility to make this easier for them, less scary. Because, for example, as today, you need to talk with somebody. You need to talk with a financial advisor, or you need to talk with somebody else, and probably that bring you some reservations about sharing too much about yourself. But in the future, you could actually talk with a system which you know is living in your device, which you probably trust more than a human. And that system can help you to take better decisions. Or that system can run simulations that you probably didn't know that you can do that. So this barrier of reducing the fear and increase the awareness, I think is a thing that we will see in the next
Couldn't
10
agree
years.
more. Yeah. Wow,
That's
so
one.
fascinating. My mind goes crazy on this topic. I feel like, imagine the future of, I mean, we've seen some robo-advisors in this space, but what's the next gen robo-advisor? And it's like, by 50, I want to get make 1 million in I guess, wealth, individual wealth, and create that plan for me and then execute it. Like, imagine how crazy that would be.
I think it will be exactly what you're saying, but imagine since the moment that somebody borns. One of the things that keep amazing me is, for example, here in America, the financial services that exist that help somebody since the moment that they're born. I'll give you quick examples. So when somebody born in America as an American citizen, since day one, they can acquire bonds. So you born and your parents can buy bonds for you with a maturity of 10 years. So since the moment that you're born, you have access to start to saving money. Now, since the moment that you're born, your parents actually can open a stock account and they can put money in the SP500. And so the moment that you're born, your parents can include you in a credit card so you can start building your credit report. So by the moment that you are 12 or 15, you already are into the financial system and you already have savings, right? And when you actually are 18 and go on, and your parents teach you how to use these financial artifacts, you probably could be financially free by the age of 30. Is not that amazing?
That's crazy. That's mind
A lot of
blowing.
these things, they could be running automatically
Yeah.
since the moment that we're born. Now it depends of a human, and I think that's the problem. I'm not diminishing humanity here. Sometimes we are too busy to get
Yeah.
into all these kind of things, and as I mentioned, the barrier of emotions and the barrier of awareness is too high. But imagine a future where all these kind of things could be automatically. Like my kid borns. Could you help
Yeah.
me to automatically add it in my credit cards? Could you help me to take some part of my salary and put it in the bonds for them? Could you help me to write write the will?
Amazing.
And you think about the generational wealth that right now is so scary. I'll give you like a scary fact. As today, more than 80% of the Americans, as today, don't have a will.
Yeah.
And more of them actually don't have a trust. And I'll tell you what that means. That means like majority, unfortunately, of the Americans that God don't want this, but something happens to them, majority of the assets will go to probate, which is terrible by the families. And we're not thinking about this, and I'll tell you why. Because we don't want to talk about debt. Because debt is scary. Have a trust is scary. Have a will is scary. But it's part of the system. It's a financial artifact.
Yeah.
Now, if we can automate these kind of things, we can also automate this area and we can be safe, not only for ourselves, but we can actually maintain our assets secure and safe for our family members and our loved ones.
Yeah. Future generations. Incredible.
Right?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a deep topic, but I love it. It's a very fascinating one. I do want to take a quick pivot, but maybe on your PM experience in the space. You worked at iconic companies like Stash, BlockFi, PayPal, product leadership kind of experience there. How was your experience like working in these companies like as a product leader? I know you managed pretty large teams as well. I think like 50, 60 plus teams. Any thoughts on being a great product leader for the audience and who are in a similar shoes as you?
Great question. Yes, and each one of my experience there teach me a lot because the stages of the company and the peoples in each one of the company. And I can break down this, but the TLDR is to be a great product leader, you need to have principles and mental models that helps you with your day to day. Doesn't matter how many management classes you take. Doesn't matter how many courses or how many times you actually think that you will lead in teams. I will tell you this thing. Every human is a world and every human has his own motivations. So if you wanted to do this well, you need to have your principles and execute the principles relentless. I think in all my experience, I go actually to three principles. My principle number one to lead teams is to have a clear vision. In a nutshell, have a clear vision is important for whatever you wanted to do. There could be a product, there could be an area, there could be a tool, or even you could be just a meeting. But you need to have a clear vision. And a clear vision is helping people to understand where you wanted to go. And if they wanted to go with you, which is okay. This is also important. It's important to understand not everybody wants to go with you. And you need to detect that, right? But if you don't have a clear vision, you don't know where you're going, then it's difficult then to bring people together with you. So clear vision is important. Second, you actually need to build a high performance culture. And that is super important. Like people could be right now like asking why high performance culture means. Well, in companies, we are like, I believe that it's a game. We are a sports team. We are no family. We are no group of people who gather together to do family activities. We are a sports team. And in every sport, we need to perform. Now, this is another framework I use in my mind all the time. To understand where you wanted to go, and understanding that this is a game and you want to have a high performance team, you want to have the team of 8 players, everybody need to know that this is a game. And a game have 3 kind of players. The ones who are winning, the ones who are losing, and the ones who don't know that they're playing. And that's the problem. A lot of people don't know that they are playing. And if you as a manager don't let them know, so they will be frustrated and they will be miserable in the job. So building a high performance culture means that you need to help your team to realize that this is a game. And you need to teach them how to play the game because everybody wants to win. And you need to help them to understand what it means win. Right?
Amazing. Yeah.
And the third one, and my third principle, is driving people with clear expectations or drive clear expectations. Right? So these 3 things go together. The vision is like, hey guys, we need to go there. We are creating this product to change the world in this way. Or we are creating this presentation that helps us to actually to get this funding. The high performance culture is like, hey guys, win means this, lose looks this. To win, we need to do these kind of things. Please, I will tell you if you're actually doing things that are making us lose. And the third one is you need to understand the expectations. Like, hey, my expectation for you is this. If you are not performing that expectation, this is the way that you can improve it. Or this is the way to leave the game. Because you also need to be compassionate. Compassionate means like literally do something to help others. A lot of people say that you need to be empathetic. I don't believe in that. Empathetic is just feel for others. And if the other person is drowning, giving high five. But compassionate means like you feel for that person and you do something about it. And something about it means, hey, let you know is that you are doing good or you are doing bad, or give you alternatives. Hey, I think you're really not enjoying this game. Do you want to go to another game? Or in this case, in a team, should be like, do you want to join another team? You want to do something different? Because we need to understand that people are driven by progress and by motivations, and you need to help them to achieve that if you want to have like good performance in your team. So that's my principles. To your point, I've been executing these principles in big companies like PayPal, which the people in, for example, in big companies like PayPal, they pretty much are professionals who they've been in other big companies. So the big company mindset is different. People, for example, in companies like Stash or BlockFi, there was like more like a unicorn. You probably can find people that were in a startup mode, which is different to be in a big company mode. The motivations and the rules of the games are different. And that's what is super important to inform people or your teams. That's what I try to do with my teams.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big plus one. One of my favorite thing that I say to my teams is product is really a team sport, and we all kind of have a role on the field, and we know each person's strengths and weaknesses and what we bring to the table, and collectively we're an A+ team, right? But I think everyone brings something special to the table, which really resonates with my sports teams. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. I do want to quickly, we're reaching time. Before we close out, I'll have to talk about AI. So that is obviously, we're in 2024, October 2024. It's a very hot topic right now. I know we've touched on it in this podcast right now, but would love to hear your thoughts on how AI is going to influence the role of a product manager and the profession at large. Any experience and thoughts on that?
Yes. Now that you mentioned that, I've been playing with AI nonstop for the last probably like 8 months.
Any favorite ones?
My first...
Any favorite tools?
Well, yes. There is this tool called Wizard, and I'll probably share you the link. And probably I'm pronouncing the name totally incorrectly, so I'm sorry for the founders if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. But this tool is amazing. The TLDR of this tool is pretty much that allow you to create mock-ups from your drawings in seconds. So if you are a PM like me, who enjoy to share ideas visually, your process probably could be first to think about the idea, later try to draw the idea in paper, and later pass this to some designers, and the designers probably give you some feedback, and they will do some analysis on that, and they will come back, and later they come back with feedback, and this could take like a good amount of time to use your idea, which is part of the normal process of PMing. However, this tool called Wizard basically allow you to take a picture of your mockups and automatically convert it in mockups, like first wireframes and a mockup version, and they compotize everything and give you a suggestion about how they look like. And once that you approve it, you can tell him how do you want it to run the interactions. And in just a matter of seconds
Magical.
and probably minutes, you will have a complete prototype that you can share with others. That was mind-blowing for me because I can accelerate so much of the conversations with the people just by show them
Show
a
not
quick
tell.
interactive
Yeah.
prototype.
Yeah, I love that.
To answer your question about like what I see AI is coming into place, I think PMing will be one of the careers who will be benefit the most. I would say first engineers will benefit a lot, but I think PMing in general will benefit even more than engineers. And it's because we have to our fingerprints everything that we ever wanted. You wanted to do search, you wanted to run a competitive analysis, use Perplexity. It's your best friend. Run some numbers, do some calculations, helping to create some graphics, boom.
Yeah.
You wanted to take all the information and later start putting it into a PRD. You take that information and you use ChatGPT or Cloud to help you to critique your ideas. And they will take your ideas, they'll give you a critique, right? And you have some feedback. You wanted to later on to create a fast prototype, go to this tool, as I mentioned, Wizard. Boom, boom, boom. And you have a nice presentation. Once that you have that, you can use Gamma. I know you hear about Gamma.
Yeah.
So once that you have your PRD and you have a quick prototype, you put everything in Gamma and you create a quick presentation and you can share with others. So the power of communication and influence and the speed that you can have with these kind of tools is unprecedented until this time.
We haven't even talked about translation, right? Imagine a global tech team and speaks like 20 languages and you can really democratize that, which is really cool.
Totally agree. Totally agree. That's mind-blowing. That's mind-blowing. The power of like also the languages and how we can communicate it with others and share. This is what I mentioned. Like right now, the access is there. The only thing that we need is discipline and commitment. Because also with the access of all these tools, they also come with a cost, which probably will reduce the quality. And this is a warning I wanted to get to all our listeners. I'm old enough to see how actually what happened in web, in the .com area, where people were coding and create websites. Later on, they started using Dreamweaver. I don't know if you hear about Dreamweaver.
Yeah, I have.
Remember Dreamweaver?
Yeah,
That was a drag and drop situation.
Yeah. It's
right?
going way back.
Yes. So there was Dreamweaver and Flash, and people suddenly went from one day to another. Everybody can build a website. But what happened to that moment is like, because everybody can build a website, so the quality of the websites, they started to decreasing. And there was an oversaturated market with websites that nobody wanted to use, right? So I think the same thing will happen to us in digital products. The easy access to create tools, they will come with a decrease of quality of products. So the unfair advantage that anybody, doesn't matter if it's a PM or a developer or a data science will have, there will be deep critical thinking and understanding if whatever they're building really resolving the task of the people and the people wanted to adopt it in their life. So the human connection will play a very critical factor to build tools that appeals to the masses, because we will actually be floating in hundreds of digital products.
Yeah. Yep. It's going to be a whole like buffet in the next 10 years, which is going to be really cool. All right, I know we're approaching time, and I can probably talk to you for hours and hours still, but I know you're launching a new, or you're writing more content on PM and blogging on and around product and leadership. Could you just share to the listeners about what you're doing there and what drove you to start that or be more active in it?
Yes, and thank you. So after the last 15 years being just heads down and building products from the world, you can imagine that I have a bunch of stories to share with others, a bunch of learnings, positives, and in this case, the things I could do better, my opportunities. So I decided to start writing all these things to help others, share them what works for me and what are the things I know that I could do better in certain situations, and put it in paper, or in this case now in the modern area, in paper and in video, to share with others and to incentivize conversations. And in general, this is just an advice and writing for my younger self. I wish, as I mentioned to you in my story, when I was 15, I was going to the library and taking all these books. I wish there was somebody that told me or gave me some small advices about what to do. But unfortunately, in the moment once, I was in Mexico where I have no access to a lot of resources. Second, I don't have fast internet. And third, I don't know too many people who were into computers. So what I'm doing is basically writing to the younger me, the ambitious professional who wanted to build great products.
That's great.
And if I can fast track a little bit of their journey, that will make my day.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the whole world is going to be lucky to learn from you and all your incredible experience. And a big plus one, that's actually why I started writing too. And I feel like more PMs are moving towards writing. And I was at Amazon, and you probably learned about their writing culture there and how there's like note decks and everything's all written. And I think there's some beauty in writing and just distilling your thoughts and thinking about it logically. And it's also like there for you to, as a resource for you in the future and for others as well, so you don't forget. That's why I do it.
And you're absolutely right. There is no more difficult thing than actually try to structure your thoughts, right? So you could actually like talk a lot, imagine a lot, right? But once that you actually really put yourself into the book or the computer and start writing your thoughts, it is very challenging. Not only to write your thoughts, but actually making it structured enough that other human being can take the thoughts and imagine what you were living. It's challenging, and I think it's fascinating that I thought about that every single time I write. Like I thought, like, hey, I'm writing this thing, but what about in 5 years from now? What the person who is reading this will be thinking?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe a question, fun question before we wrap on the Fast Five and the close. Why do you choose writing as a mechanism and not like recording yourself on audio and transcribing that or creating videos yourself? Just like, why'd you choose writing? Just very curious.
Good question. Because my mind is a storm. So probably some people can relate with me, but I have so many thoughts in my mind. And sometimes I try to go faster than what I can talk. My thoughts are faster than my tongue. And for me, one mechanism to be helping me to communicate with others is to first write it down and then structure them and then filter the things that I think that will be more meaningful for others and share. That is a technique that's been helping me for years. And also, one of the things that have been helping me in my career, I didn't mention this, but one of the exercises that I learned early in my career was actually to write my goals and think about like how I want to accomplish my goals, because talking to yourself can only accomplish it if you can put things in writing. Yeah. Because you can put out on your mind, you can read, and you're like, oh yes, it was planned how we could do this.
Yeah, working backwards from your goals, I love it.
Right.
Amazing, Jesus. I know we're almost time, and I'm going to close us out with the Fast Five. So Fast Five, 5 quick questions just to get to know yourself better. First question, so I have to ask this, is one of my favorite questions to ask my guest is, what's your favorite product and why? Can be physical, digital, and anything.
Spotify is my favorite product. I use it every day. Why? Because they do the job to be done pretty well. The job for Spotify is to finding an emotion and let it actually receive the emotion through music. And I think Spotify do this amazingly well. They always recommend me music that is appealing to what I'm feeling. And recently they had this new feature, which is the personalized DJ. And once that you put the DJ, he actually do mix based on your history, and I think it's pretty accurate. So I love it.
Very cool. I gotta ask you as a follow up, what are some of your favorite genres of music, or what's on your favorite Spotify playlist? Any recommendations?
I'm into electronic music, so I'm a big David Guetta fan, EDM. But I can go to the extreme, like EDM music and all the way to classical music.
Beautiful. Very cool, very diverse. All right, next question. If you could have dinner with anyone, who will it be and why? And obviously, Tech to Table, the first product, has mostly been bringing people together over food and dinners. Curious to know your answer on this.
This could be some controversial for product people, but if I can choose somebody to have a dinner in the world, they'll be with the founder of Facebook, with Mark. And why? Because I believe that he is one of the truly visionaries of our times. Like, one of the visionaries in the world was Steve Jobs. I think the second visionary and executor in the vision in the world is Mark Zuckerberg.
Very admirable, all the chapters in his journey from Facebook for colleges initially, a very small niche, and how it's evolved, and all the social media issues he's had to face with government and politics and stuff like that, and overcome everything. I'm sure he didn't anticipate that from day one.
Right? And how he been reinventing himself, but always be passionate about technology. Recently, one of the interviews, he said that, like, I create Facebook to be a tech company, and I always believe in technology, and he been true to himself. Like, it's a true tech company.
Very admirable. Amazing. Next one is looking backwards. We have a lot of listeners early in their career, and they may want to live have a career very similar to yours. What advice would you give them on their career trajectory and how they navigate their career?
Probably the best advice that I can give you is a 4 steps framework that I use since I was 20, and stand for 4 P's, which is plan, prepare, practice, perform. And what that means is, first, you need to know where you're going. Doesn't matter which part of your career you are, you always need to know where you wanted to go. Remember the leadership part? I wanted to build products, right? That build products could become later in a leadership position, or they could be in a partner position, or helping others to build products. But you need to have an idea. I wanted to build products. I wanted to lead teams. Then once you have that, then you can pretty much detect what are the gaps that you have, right? What you know versus what you don't know. And then you can start preparing. Once that you prepare, which is important, a lot of people just fail in that one. They plan, but they're not honest with themselves to really write down what they know versus what they don't know and try to close the gap. If you then practice, right? Practice and practice and practice what you think you don't know or you are not good at, then you will improve. And of course, perform, which is execute. Relentless execution. Don't let that anybody tell you that you cannot do it. You will do this the first time bad. They'll be suck. But the more that you're doing, the more that you will improve it and you'll be better. So if you are disappointed, and again, it's normal. Just keep going. Yeah. Don't let anybody stop you.
It's incredible. I couldn't agree more. Maybe just a quick plug, like my career, when I pivoted from consulting to product, not many people know this, but like plan was, that's the goal, to move into product and tech. And I actually did over 100 mock interviews to prepare and practice. And then, yeah, the first 10 wasn't great. It was a bit rough. And then by 50 to 100, it felt like a game. Like it just felt like very natural, and I had a lot of fun and I really enjoyed the process. And then, yeah, perform was obviously being in that role. So I love that framework.
Right? It's scary. And you did it. Like, that's, I think, probably one of the biggest dangers of this generation, that they fear to fail. And fail is no bad, right? It's you will actually continue improving meanwhile you keep going. Your story is an example of that, which is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I tell my team the goal with Product Almost is like, how do you speed up the time to failure and learnings, right? You want to fail fast and then pivot from there, essentially, in product.
Right?
Very cool. Okay, next question. Well, thinking ahead and thinking about the future, what are you most excited about in product, in fintech? Any thoughts there?
Well, as we talk in the conversation, I think the power of AI to help people to achieve true prosperity is something that excites me a lot. Not only to help to minimize the effort, but also to educate people in a more personalized way or more intimate way to reduce the taboo. AI is definitely a game changer, but I also believe in augmented reality. A lot of people could ask why augmented reality? Because I think augmented reality will give us superpowers. Augmented reality will merge two worlds. So I can imagine in the close future, right, that we actually will have the whole information of the world in our eyes, right? And we will be able to, one, remember things faster. Second, detect dangers faster. Third, they will help us to identify where we should go or where we should learn it or what we're doing good or bad. They will increase pretty much our awareness.
Yeah.
Right? So I think AI and AR, they will be a game changer for our generation and for the future generations.
Well, those Meta glasses, right? I don't know if you've used them, but some of these glasses coming out are incredible. It's the movies are coming real life, I feel like.
Right. I love it. I watched the announcement. I've been waiting. I'm a big VR fan for the last 7 years. And I cannot wait to have them in my hands. Like one of the things I wish I could have or I wish I could do with them is to improve my accent, right? As a communicator, sometimes I'm not aware of what I'm pronouncing incorrectly. But can you imagine an AR version of the glasses that actually when the moment I'm talking, they can detect where I can improve and they can tell me in real time, hey Jesus, you mispronounced this word. The real pronunciation is in this way. So I could actually improve in real time.
Yeah. But no, you're perfect, and I think I wouldn't want you to change any other way. But final question before we wrap up: what's your favorite quote or mantra you live by? This is a great one because I think it just really says a lot about a person and kind of what has driven you through your career.
I think that the biggest mantra or quote that's been driving my life since I was 19, 20 is what Steve Jobs said in one of these talks, which is stay hungry, stay foolish. But I can tell you that it's super difficult to live by that quote, right? And every single year, I'm 36 right now. Every single year, I note it I have a journey a journal where I take notes of my success and my failures. And the first line is always what I did to stay hungry and stay foolish. And it's a real challenge because the older that we get, the more things we have and the more scared we are to lose them, right? And that quote really go deeper than me every single year. Can I continue to stay hungry? Can I continue wanting to continue improving? There are a bunch of areas in my life I want to improve it. Can I keep it going? But in the same time, can I stay foolish? And a lot of people don't understand this part of the phrase. But pretty much stay foolish stand for the naiveness. Because when you are younger, you are more risky because you are naive. You don't know how much effort will take. You don't know how much probably will be, how painful will be losing something because you don't have nothing. But when you start to getting older and you have responsibilities and you have family, right? The more that actually you are at risk adverse, the more you know that probably they will be foolish to do this. But that's the same thing that's stopping us to do great things. So I think it's very challenging to try to keep growing and try to keep executing, right? With, I will say, guard deals.
Wow, amazing, Jesus. That one goes deep, and I definitely really resonate on that. But yeah, sometimes I think about that as well. Like, am I crazy doing all these things? But yeah, love it. Well, Jesus, thank you so much. I think we planned for like 45 minutes and now we're over an hour, but it was like a lot of rich insights. And I know we can still talk for another few hours, but audience appreciates you. The Tech to Table community appreciates you. So a big thank you from us.
Thank you for inviting me. I love it.
Amazing. All right, Jesus, we'll talk soon. See you
Bye.
later. Bye. Thank you for listening to another serving of Tech to Table Talks. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you found the podcast valuable and entertaining, please support us by subscribing to our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube channels. Please also give us a rating or leave a review to help us reach more listeners. Until next time, we'll see you in the next episode and also at a table near you.